company. But before that happened, I knew that I was going to leave teaching. And so there were certain steps I needed to take to make sure the job, it wasn't like, oh yeah, this just popped up. So, usually changing a career comes from, major event, a crisis in your life. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's unhappiness with the job. In our case, my husband lost his teaching job. They cut his position after 27 or 28 years. And so I just was like, I can't stay teaching in the same school district. And right now, many people in the hospitality industry, we're hurting due to COVID, due to cancellations, doing all this. As of May, 47% of people in the hospitality industry have lost their jobs. That's about 7.7 million jobs. And I know that the hoteliers in Nashville were told, don't expect a rebound until 2022. You're not going to see groups. You're not going to get groups till 2022. So we're finding that people are like doing the jobs of 20. They're having to clean rooms. They're having to, do everything just to hold on to a job. The other day I sat on a call with Live Nation and it freaked me out because the first words were, if you're on this call, congratulations, you have your job. But we're not going to be working on Fridays and you're taking a 20% cut in addition to the cut I already took. So we all know you're kind of like, and thank goodness we were accidentally placed on that call. I wasn't supposed to be, so that didn't happen, but that freaks you out. So everybody might be in a different spot. What is your, and thank you, Deb. But I mean, what are some of the reasons, if you feel transparent, that you're looking possibly for a career path? Is it because of COVID in the industry? Is it because of a boss? Is it because, you just need a change? You're depressed and everything. Anybody want to share? Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
So I work for a university for the student union, and I oversee meeting and event requests, which needless to say right now is kind of slow. But even before COVID, I've pretty much outgrown my position and basically don't really have the support to move up or change or anything like that. And anytime I do try to kind of step outside of my role, I basically get my hand slapped for trying to do so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that was how it was.
Yeah. So for example, a week ago Sunday, somebody left a message about an event they were supposed to have. This was 12 o'clock and they were supposed to have an event at 2, and we're using Slack too. So I sent our team a message and just said, hey, this event has been canceled. And on Monday, my boss called me about something else. But while we were on the call, she was like, well, thanks for doing that. But in the future, you don't need to do that, because since you did that, we have to pay you for that 5 minutes or whatever it took me to do that. Which that wasn't why. I did it because it was the right thing to do, because so they would know the event was canceled. But it was no, we don't want you working on the weekends. And we don't want to have to pay you literally probably 5 minutes it took to listen to the voicemail, type in Slack and go.
Yeah. When I was teaching once, my boss told me you need to stop doing too much because you're making the other teachers look bad. So there you go. That's what you want to hear. Yep. Yeah. And thanks, Katie, for sharing. Anybody else? Anybody? Okay. So, one of the things that I did was when I knew I was going to leave teaching, and I did research. So I had the benefit of being it took me a year. I kept teaching, but I had a year in order to look into other careers. I looked into owning a franchise, whether it was a barber shop, a cleaning service, looked into different I mean, I looked at all kinds of things, pharmaceutical sales. I actually job shadowed somebody on, took a vacation day and, shadowed somebody that was doing pharmaceutical sales. I looked at, you know, I did how much do they pay? What are the benefits? What are the chances of, job placement? Because I was, okay, 46 years old. I was 46 years old. And we're all not supposed to be like, oh, it's age and everything, but I was 46 years old and I had been a teacher, a lifeguard, a waitress, a bartender. So those were my skills, right? And then even though I worked hard and everything. So I did some research, I looked into different things and to try and learn as much as I possibly could about different opportunities. And I had to figure out what my takeaways were and what I'd settle for. I had to figure out, like, yes, I need to make this much money. Okay. That's what I have to do. I have to make this much money. Benefits doesn't matter because my husband can carry the benefits. Now, some people might be single and it might be all on you. How much do you have in your savings account? Do you want to work from home? One of the biggest challenges right now that I'm hearing from a lot of my friends, and some of you might be experiencing it, is, yeah, I like working from home, except the kids are doing school virtually. So I'm trying to work, they're doing school virtually, and I'm trying to work and it's not working real well. Or I have to go into the office to work and the kids are home doing school virtually. So hopefully, things will be changing and moving shortly, but decide, oh, I have to stay. Like, I was in Wisconsin. I didn't care if we moved. I didn't care. Talked it over with my husband, with our 3 kids, and they were like, no, it's fine. So those were, we had to make those kind of concessions. And one of the things that happened a couple weeks ago, I was talking with 2 guys that I know from MPI, and one is, believe it or not, in the mortgage business, and one is a event photographer. And the event photographer was sitting down and being very transparent, and he's like, I'm hurting. He goes, I have no business. I was going to make this much money. I have no business. So I said, well, let's brainstorm. Let's think about things we can do, And Brad says, hey, you know what? You should try and do photography for realtors, for builders. I said, can you do video? He goes, no. I said, well, learn video because video works. I said, have you talked to social media companies? Have you talked to venues? What have you done any, what have you, and he just sat there and he looked at me and he said, I just want things to go back to the way they were. Well, we all do, but it's not going to happen. We all do. And you just have to decide. And, and I said to him, Dwayne, I want to help you and here are suggestions and we're trying. And I said, but he goes, we don't have any benefits. I said, well, my husband's a special ed teacher's aide. He makes $15 an hour, but he carries benefits. I said, Lowe's, Costco, we have 2 Amazons by us. I said, this is not a career change. This is not a career change, but maybe it's something to get you over the hurdle right now. Right? So you have, and that's a factor. You have all this, your age, all this experience, all this knowledge. And do I really want to go back to an entry-level job? No, but that might have to happen. I was telling him temporarily if he needs to. But while he's doing that, focus on your career and what you can do to improve the services you offer, what you already have, take it and go further. So, look at COVID. age discrimination. Oh, Deb, it's how my husband lost his job. Yep. Master's plus 36 plus almost 30 years of teaching. Yep, exactly. Yep, completely. So I'm right there with you guys, and can totally relate. What are some other careers that you guys might have thought about? Does anybody have anything like, you know, anybody? Lynn?
I was kind of one point looking at just with being in the travel business and, you know, the organizational skills and the project management skills and every other skills that we carry.
Yes.
I guess I always thought of, you know, construction, where you're organizing, you know, kind of a general contractor where you're organizing all the shipments, everything that's coming in, and that planning and coordination and the project management that's involved there. But it's just a matter of how do I transfer my skills? How do I look for what do I look for in that type of an industry that fits those qualifications?
That's interesting because I should connect you with my friend Jennifer. Jennifer went from a construction project manager who was doing events for the company to becoming an event planner with her own company, got her CMP and everything. And now because of COVID, she's going back to try to become, because I don't know about you, but real estate and building is absolutely nuts by us right now.
Right, us too, yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't know how many people I've seen go into real estate now. I know of 3 people that are friends of mine that have switched to real estate. So, Lynn,
I've
that's
heard of real estate, and I probably get 3 emails a day regarding to become an insurance agent right now. So
there you go, insurance agent. Yep, I looked into that too when I was first looking. Yeah, Gail, did you have anything?
You know, one of the things I've talked to some of my clients about is transitioning their skills into startups, in large part. And again, the money's not always there as much, but they absolutely need the organizational skills and they need the ideas. I mean, one of the things about event people is that we're scrappy. We're going to figure out how to get it done, and typically with less money than we need to get it done. So if you're in a city with a startup community and you can do some volunteering, if you can do some contract work, I've actually found jobs for myself and other people through those networks as well. And they just bring a young energy and they need experience. I find actually a little less ageism in those groups because they're willing to say they don't know everything, and they're willing to look at the expertise that older, more seasoned employees bring in.
That's a great suggestion. That's true. Yeah. And anybody else? Okay. Yeah, I mean, and go ahead, Kareen.
Well,
Corinne, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. I'll answer to anything. When I was younger, I wouldn't, but I do now that I'm seasoned. But I was with the DMC for 20 years, and in the process, I was already working on my resume that I hadn't had to do for 20 years. But I'm working with someone that helped me with my resume, spent some time getting to know me, asking me the hard questions of what do I like and my strengths. And so we built this resume that I don't have a job yet. I've just started seriously looking, but we're looking at account management for a lot of biotech here in San Diego. Also a lot of technology and a sales executive. But it's weird that I'm thinking right away, I'm get out of the industry because I need to make a living. But then being back involved in this Age of Conversation and creative mornings that I go on Friday mornings, I really love this industry. So I think I'm switching my mindset to find something that may not be my passion, but keep a foot in the industry so that when it comes back, I want to go back to that side. But I think I have to focus on something. And so my resume is more sales, account management, because I'm all about relationships that may then end up back in event management and live events whenever they come back. I'm not done with the live events. They'll be back, and the virtual ones, but there's still a job that we need to do, and there's so many skills. If you talk to someone or you go to a think tank or a group of people that pull out the skills that we forget that we have that are transferable, like project management, or managing a team of sales managers. So that's kind of where I'm looking at.
I do want to chime in. I know somebody's talked about startups and things. I came from a startup, and I'm going to tell you there's two trains of thought there. Yes, they do. Some people will welcome your experience, and many will not. I'm in the Bay Area, and I'm sorry, it looks like nighttime here because we have total red skies. They're covered
That's what I
in,
heard. Yeah.
it's orange. I have every light on in my house, so if I turn my light off, it looks like it's not. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it looks like that's how it looks here. So, but I'm going to tell you, I work for a startup, and you work with a lot of young, scrappy people. The only thing is, if you're willing to work 24/7, which we do as meeting planners, is great. But however, the process thought on how we do things and how it can be a little bit of a struggle, because to them, and I worked on a company where our small team of 5 were managing 30 events a month, and most of the lead time was, if you were lucky, 3 to 6 months, if even 6 if you were lucky, 3 at most. And they would throw things at the wall because they're scrappy. So even if you're experienced, and my own VP at the time, she could care less if I was a CMP. She thought it was dismissive to the team that I was experienced. So you had to keep your mouth shut. You had to know when you had to speak it. Our team is gone, and I don't want to say anything negative about them, but the experience I had was that my experience and my knowledge, really, they didn't care. They wanted people who were willing to jump in, and if you had some sort of skill to add to the pot, it was great. But event planning, and I find this out with other companies or with the startup world here, it's people have a different mindset up at the top. The CEOs have a different mindset. The C-level is different. It's been a struggle. You'll see a lot of people jump around from job to job, and during this time, I don't know, maybe we'll go back to where it's welcome your seasoned knowledge, your years managed. But I'm finding, I just had my sister who works for a startup. They got rid of their marketing person because they said, oh, he was too old fashioned. They just wanted to do different channels of marketing. And I know that's not event planning, but that's where the events fall in, was under marketing. And they got rid of them because they thought, oh, why do we have to do this? We could just do it. I mean, it's like throw it on the wall and that's how we're going to do it. So there's a little of that mentality out, when you're a startup. You're young, you're not young like an age, but it's young as an
Inexperience.
And company wise, not experience, but company wise, because you're doing a new product, a new app, or whatever it is. It's pretty much you're scrappy. You don't, you're still trying to get funding. You're still trying to get the right people to come to work for you. You're still trying to get your process in place, and none of those are there. So you don't want to come in like, well, I've done this before. They don't want to hear it. It's a whole different, and I don't know if that's going to change now, and I don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of companies out here looking for people who do have that background, and you think, well, I could do this, I could do that. But if you read, coming from a startup, I can read between the lines, and I really see what they're really looking at if you come from a tech company or from a startup, because that's where I came from. But that was a short time there for about a year or so, but I'd been working with startups prior to that when I was my own as a consultant. But not negative. It's just a different mindset, a different thought process. And when I'm saying this, like, it's great. I think it's good if you can find somebody who's willing to help, let you jump in and help. But there's a point where you have to kind of hold back because they want to take the reign themselves, and they don't want you, it's different. It's good. It's, just.
Yeah. Keep that's great and that's good advice, Deb, to keep in mind. And what I liked also, though, is what Corinne said, is having somebody sit there and, I'm not tech. and I'm not social media. Okay. Those are like my biggest nightmares. Okay. And, but I can do a heck of a lot of other things. Okay. And I can, and like Corinne said, is work with somebody or try to find somebody that can sit there and say, like Lynn was like, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm good at. And what career matches that? And what, and so, and then you build your resume, like she said, around that, and you look for jobs that kind of go into that, talk to somebody about it. And that kind of leads into my next thing is like networking. You're networking. And when I was looking for jobs, okay, I couldn't tell anybody in the school district, but I told the people on my son's hockey team, all the parents knew. I mean, my sister who lives down here in Tennessee, she told all her friends, yeah, Jill's looking for a job. She's looking into franchising. She is researching. She's doing all this other stuff. Hey, and they helped me job shadow. They told me the positives, the negatives, the percentages, but network, church, temple, anywhere and anybody, associations, the people that I've met here, a lot of them I met at the Association for Women in Events conference. I met people at MPI, WEC, NACE. I don't really do NACE, but I was at PCMA, ILEA, any of those. And you just throw it out there. I've got, people will, and you also want to be a resource for them, because if you do something for somebody, they'll want to help you out. So like I said to people, send me your resume and I'll try. And if I hear of anything, if I hear of anything, I will let you, know. So I've got like a dozen resumes sitting there, and like we have a club that's opening up down here, and I've got a friend that's got a little bit of business in managing a venue, and she's got a little bit of music background. Whoop, there you go. I'm sending her resume over. So, we all know how to network. How do you network now? It's like watching those dang Match commercials right now where you see the two people and they're like, hey, here's my wine and how's that recipe going? And you're going, because we're used to going, hey, how are you? Shaking hands and all that stuff. And so you have to find events like this. You have to look at Facebook groups, maybe start your own Facebook group. And, like Nashville industry people looking for jobs, and send it out to 5 of your friends and have them send it. And then it becomes, here, this is where we're posting jobs. This is where we're sharing hardships. This is where we're sending words of encouragement. Our MPI private Facebook group, we got job postings. The minute they come up, boom, people are sharing job postings. So those are, does anybody have any, LinkedIn. I learned a lot about LinkedIn and becoming an expert on LinkedIn. And this was funny. This week, I didn't know this, but like I was sitting and having lunch with a friend of mine who's lost her job. And she said, she goes, oh, I'm trying to get on LinkedIn. She goes, I got about 200 friends. And I go, okay. And I go, so what's the deal? And she said, well, and I said, I got 2,200. She goes, well, then you're probably getting job postings. And I said, yeah, I am. I'm getting I got a page and a half of job postings today. I looked it up because I went on LinkedIn, but I've done blogs about buying entertainment. I've done blogs about having a songwriter show. I've done little articles and put them on there, pretending I'm the expert. You want to become the expert. You want everybody to go, oh, she knows her stuff. She knows what she's talking about. And then they want to connect with you. I also sat there and connected with everybody. And she goes, well, the algorithm with LinkedIn is the more people you know and all this stuff and all these connections, the more the jobs pop up.
Oh. So I did, end of last year maybe it was,
Yeah.
a free webinar on LinkedIn, and it was a
Oh.
recruiter who was doing the webinar, and he said this whole idea that you only connect with people you know is wrong. He's like,
No.
go through, connect with everybody.
Yep.
And then he showed us how recruiters search for people. And so basically in like the search box or whatever in LinkedIn, you know, say if they're helping a company try to find like a graphic artist or something, they're going to type graphic artist and narrow it down by like whatever city, state. Then they get however many results pop up. Then maybe if they need it very more specific than just graphic artist, it has to be somebody with this, like a portfolio. Then they'll type that in, narrow it down. And he says they don't even look at people's resumes at that first stop. They're just going through connecting with like maybe the first, I don't know, like 5-10 pages or so, seeing who responds, because they know some of those people will just respond to anything, but they're not really looking. Some you'll never hear from, but the ones that are actually going to connect, then those are the ones that they will actually go through and start to look at like their profile. So he said that's kind of, as if you're looking for a job, you kind of have to think of that way. And he also
and
suggested
target those people. Like if I'm looking at, I know the dollar planners from Dollar General corporate. Okay, if you want a job at Dollar General, you start following Dollar General, you start linking up with people that are in the marketing or in the planning at Dollar General. You know, the construction, Lynn, you know, you sit there in project management, you follow other project managers, you know, things like that. You're right. So, you know, and that kind of leads into my, you know, education. Look at getting those certifications. A lot of you are CMPs, or, you know, it's expensive to be a CMP. I'm not one, but, you know, trying to do, they have CVent certifications. They've got some online certifications. Look into associate degrees, look in your bachelor's degrees, look in master's degrees. My daughter got her master's from Lipscomb University, and they got them a paid internship while they went to school at night. So she got a $15 an hour job, got her, and that helped pay for the MBA. So, and then it got her. So, yeah. And so anyway, so does anybody, we've got like a couple minutes left, right, Natalie? Yeah, does anybody have any questions, comments, suggestions?
Hi guys, this is Beth Monaco. Just a couple of things to piggyback on what Lynn said earlier, but I was laid off back in 2008 during the crisis of the economy. And I sent my resume out to my entire contact list of all of my friends, both inside and outside of the industry. And one of the gentlemen that I sent it to happened to be the vice president of the property management company where I lived. And I was on the board of directors for that property management company, so I knew him. He happened to need somebody who wanted to do some brand marketing, some client relations, put on some events for him to help get their name out into the community and help build up their brand. So I went to work for him, and I worked for him for almost 7 years as a result of that one link up. And you would be amazed in the property management industry, for those of you that are looking, how closely aligned it is in the meeting planning world, because there's a lot of project management that has to be done. And I'm specifically talking about condo management and homeowner association management more so than your typical apartment management. I'm talking about a little bit different there. You're working with a board of directors. So for those of you that are in the association world, not unlike that. You're planning various things. You're working with RFPs, you're working with vendors. In one case where you might be putting on an event, here you might be putting a new roof on a building. So there's different skills and things that you can learn along the way, but it's a lot of the same skills that we already know and have from the meeting planning world and the supplier worlds and various other things. And then on top of that, if you go to work for like a 50+ community, then you're doing events as well. Like those 50+ communities, if you've ever seen any of them, they've got like theaters going on in their communities. They've got activities going on all day long.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of different skills that we have that can apply to the property management world. So I encourage you to look in that side of the world as well, because there's a lot happening there that a lot of people don't realize.
Beth, that's awesome. That's
I do
awesome.
have another suggestion for Corinne too, for people who are account management or anything in the tech world. If you want to break into the tech community, there are they don't call them salespeople. So there's titles. If you're a real hardcore salesperson, then that would be considered a sales development representative. Or if you like to manage accounts, you might want to be a customer success manager, and you're pretty much managing that client from end to end. So if you're used to doing account management, and if you've been a CSM and you know how to deal with relationships, that's another thing you might want to look at. What else? So those are two titles you might want to poke into: SDRs and CSM and AE. They don't, where I worked before, and I'm slowly seeing sales going away. They're just changing that title. But it doesn't mean that you have to sell. It's more account management. And I think we all done that. We're account managers with the vendors and everything. So that might be something you might want to look at.
Thank you.
For another thing for certification, Six Sigma, that's project oriented too. If they have it for meeting planners, so you might want to look into that.
Can you say that again?
Six
Because
Sigma, SIX, like six, the number 6 and Sigma. They have a certification for meeting planners, and that's an organizational thing as well.
Hey, Beth, you in the property management, what kind of keywords would you be looking for? I can think that's what I was struggling with. What keywords am I looking for in the search for kind of helping?
Property management, condo association management, activities director, if you want to get on the activity side of things. I was client relations and brand management, so mine was a little bit different, but I kind of morphed into a bunch of different things. I actually wound up in sales toward the end of my stay with the company. There's tons of property management companies out there too. You can get a license in the state of Florida, which is where I am, and I know other states have it too. You have to be a licensed community association manager in order to manage a condo or homeowners association community. And it's not a very tough process. You take a class, one-day class, you get your fingerprints taken, and you sign up to take the tests, and it's pretty easy to do. But it's budgeting, and it's it's account management, it's maintenance, it's a whole gamut of things, and it very much aligns with what we do. And I'm on LinkedIn, Lynn, so if you want to message me, we can connect there too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Beth, if you want to write your whole name in the chat box, because for me, your last name kind of cut out. So, but you guys have been great. Thank you. Such great suggestions. I really, and we all know it's different no matter throughout the world where you're living and everything. So it's great to hear insight from all over. So thank you. All right.
Thank you, Jill. Great session.
Thank you, everyone.
If you have if you want people to connect with you, should they do that on LinkedIn? Is that the best, or?
I just typed in my email.
Perfect.
So there you go. Yeah. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, it's fine. And then I'll tell you, here's my Live Nation email. It's just jillkopecky@livenation.com, so that and Beth, thank you for sharing too. That's awesome. Yeah, everybody. So thank you.
Thanks, you guys. Well, we'll be starting our next session in just a few minutes. If you want to continue the conversation, be sure to head to Central Perk. But we really appreciate just all the comments and suggestions. It's awesome. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I hopped off my last session and then was just like sprucing up my presentation for this one.
Okay, well, perfect. Yeah. Well, I'm going to make you a co-host. And I have your little bio. Do you want me to read the whole thing? Do you want me to just pick a couple sentences? What's
You
your
can just
preference?
pick a little bit. I have a slide in my presentation where I talk a little bit about myself. So whatever
Okay,
makes
perfect.
the most sense.
Yeah, I would rather you, because it'll, people hear introductions and they like
Okay.
zone out.
Yeah. So just you can just say my name and my
Okay.
my title and company and
Perfect.
in the title of the session, and that should be sufficient, I think.
Okay.
Did you see I popped in a couple of free
Yes.
links? Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
I saved this as a PDF, and so I know they're going to probably be sharing later, but I thought if people want it now, that immediate gratification you can get when you're on